So it's all well and good being able to create and manage our database through phpMyAdmin, but to be able to do anything useful with it, we need to be able to connect to it with a PHP script. And that's what we're going to do in this video. So I'm going to go back over to FireFTP and create a new folder or directory. And I'm going to call this 7MySQL. There we go. And then within that folder, I'm going to create a new file, which will be index.php. And that will be what we'll be working with for most of this section. So I'm going to use Command O or Control O in Windows to open that up in brackets. And then I should be able to access that page at completewebdevelopercourse.com/content/7-MySQL. There we go, that looks promising. We've got a blank page so far. Let's just add a quick bit of content here and refresh just to make sure we're all linked up. We are indeed. Wonderful. So the main challenge for this video is to connect using PHP to our database. And that's actually pretty straightforward. We create some new PHP code in the same way that we're used to. And then there's just a single command to connect to a database. And that is mysqli_connect. The I there is short for improved. And some of you may have worked with databases before or searched online and seen mysql_connect like that. That's a very popular way to connect to a database, but I definitely wouldn't recommend it. It's officially deprecated now, which means it's not supported, and it's certainly not as secure as mysqli_connect. If you want to learn more about the differences and why you should use this version rather than just MySQL Connect, then have a quick Google. MySQL versus MySQLi, something like that will give you all the reasons in detail why you should use this version. But if you've never seen this before, then just consider this the best way to connect to a MySQL database. It's worth noting that there is a third way to connect to a database called PDO. And again, if you're interested in these things, feel free to have a Google and check out PDO. But I'm going to go for MySQLi because it's secure, it's supported, and it's much easier to use, I think, than PDO. All right, so we have to pass 3 variables to the MySQLi connect function. And the first one is the server name of our database. Now, because I'm running this script on completewebdevelopercourse.com and I set up my database on completewebdevelopercourse.com as well, I can use what's called localhost. And this is a general keyword that you can use to refer to the server that's running your scripts. You'll also be able to use localhost if you're working with an Apache server on your own machine. If for some reason though your database is on a different server to the script that you're trying to connect to, you can still connect to it, but you need to use the server IP address, which is this one here. So in my case, it's 79.170.44.125. So I would just replace that with the IP address. However, if you are running it on the same server, I would definitely recommend using localhost because the IP address can in some cases change. So I would only use the IP address if you absolutely have to. All right, so that's the server that we want to connect to. Next, we need to give the database username. So that's the whole of this thing here. So cl29-users-bzh. You should put whatever you've got here when you created your database. And finally, of course, we need the password, which is, in my case, that. I may well have changed that password by the time you're watching this video, so don't try and connect to this database. It might not work. You should definitely connect to your own. All right, so that's it. What happens then when we run that script? Absolutely nothing. That's because it's connected to the database, but we haven't told it to do anything with that connection. So it's obviously very useful to know in our script whether or not that connection was successful. And if it's not, then we should give an error message of some sort to the user. So there's a built-in MySQLi connect error function, which will be empty if there's no error, but will contain an error if there is one. So let's echo that for the moment, and let's generate an error by misspelling localhost and putting an E on the end. Let's see what we get. Okay, so you can see we've got an error there. Get address info failed. So it's trying to get the address info for the server and it's failing because it doesn't exist. If I correct that, then the message goes away. So that's pretty much it. Just a very quick challenge for you then. Can you change this code so that instead of just echoing the error, we have an if statement that says if the connection was successful, tell the user it was successful. If it wasn't, tell the user that it wasn't. Go for it. All right, hope you managed that. It's pretty straightforward. We just need an if statement, and then we're going to put that in itself in the if statement, because remember I said it was empty if the connection was successful. So if there is an error, then we should echo there was an error connecting to the database. You should never echo the error itself on a public website because that may give away details as to what you're trying to connect to, which is never good. If there is no error though, that means it's been successful. So again, we'd never actually display this to the user, but for now, we'll just say database connection successful. All right, let's take a look. Wonderful. We're now connected to the database and ready to create some interactive data storing websites. In order to do that, of course, we've got to be able to take data from the database and be able to edit and update that data. And that's what we'll do in the next few videos.